Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the podcast by EO Nashville, eonashville.com. If you're interested, this is where we talk to entrepreneurs about the struggles, the decisions that they make, the problems that they run into and how they deal with them and the outcomes of those decisions. And today, with me as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Thank you, Eric. Good to have you back.
It's good to be back. And today we have a very special guest, Mignon Francois. And if you guys don't know Mignon, I haven't seen you in a while, but I see you more than you would know, because occasionally I talk to an entrepreneur and I tell them, you need to go through Catalyst. And I send them the Catalyst page and I always go and watch the video where you have that famous quote about what do you know if you're wasting money or not? And that thing gets repeated again and again. It just always cracks me up. The star of the Catalyst video.
Thank you.
And now you're an EO member.
Yeah.
There's so many of you guys that have gone through Catalyst, and which is a great program. I went through it myself.
Yeah, Catalyst. I always tell people that I graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, and I believe that that's where I got my degree, in the Catalyst program with Michael.
He'll help you see the light.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could say all kinds of things about how valuable that program was. But I think I learned there to understand that my value wasn't where I thought it was. I thought the value was in the price of the product. Oh, yeah. But the price of the product has changed so many times. Kicking and screaming the whole way because I never wanted it to change. But people still came and people were saying you could charge more. So I began to learn there that the value wasn't in how much I was charging for the product. I began to really understand what my unique selling proposition was and what we were offering to Nashville. Nobody else was doing it, which is why it's still the last man standing. And I'm really proud of that. Others have tried to enter into the market and have been just ushered right back out of the market. So we'll see. There's some new contenders that have recently come into the area. So
you're still standing.
We'll see how it goes. I'm still standing.
That's great. That's a testament to you and to Catalyst, right?
What sparked your entrepreneurial journey? What was Hunger.
Yeah. I was drowning in debt and brokenness. I was losing everything that I had. My family and I didn't have electricity on a regular basis. We didn't have some of the basic necessities of life, and we were living in an area of town that was considered affluent or up and coming. So we were living in what was beginning to be known as Germantown. And we didn't have running water every day.
What year is this?
2006, 2007. We moved into Germantown in 2005.
What was your occupation at the time?
I was a stay-at-home mom. And so my whole life was being a household manager. And my children went to the zoned public school, but because of where Germantown was, we had recently gotten rezoned because the few moms that lived there or the people who were planning to have children that were going to be living there kind of made a roar about where their children were going to go to school. So now my children, when we got to the neighborhood, went to school on the other side of town, and I had to get them there. And so many days there was a decision between eating and going to school. So sometimes we couldn't go to school today because I needed that money to feed them. I didn't have gas to get them to school. And so that was a challenge that I came into this new North Nashville area that was getting a name put on the map. Now you can't tell the story of Germantown and not include the Cupcake Collection. If you tell the story of Germantown and you don't include the Cupcake Collection, you show your ignorance to the area. Because the Cupcake Collection is essentially what was the catalyst. See what I did there?
I do.
That brought a lot of attention to the area. The stadium comes after the Cupcake Collection. And we were a face and a mouthpiece for why that should come, rightfully so, back to North Nashville. So Sulphur Dell becomes reincarnated as the Sound Stadium. And I got to do a lot of I got to be very vocal about that. How new buildings and businesses came to Germantown. I got to be very vocal about that, even going down along with some people to the council meetings and things like that. I understood what was happening in that neighborhood and the change of the guard that was happening there. And I wanted to be a part of the change that I wanted to see. And so we were the first little business like ours in Germantown. We changed the narrative for what you could bring to Germantown and what could happen there. People told me that no one's ever going to stand in line or online, whichever way you see it, for anything in Germantown, let alone let it be gourmet. And we proved them wrong for the last, we've been open now. We will turn 16 on November the 9th. It took me 2 years working every day like I had a business open there before the store ever even opened. But it was my Germantown neighbors who were propelling me forward. We need a bakery here. We need what you're about to do.
When did you first have the idea of cupcakes was the answer to your plight?
So back in 2006, I was listening to Dave Ramsey. He was telling people they could get out of debt by having a bake sale or a garage sale. Problem with the garage sale was that we sold everything we had to move to Nashville, so there was no garage sale to be had. But I had these two awesome daughters who were baking every day. And so I figured they could handle the volume of a bake sale. And I'm from New Orleans, where a lot of the little shops or little shanties or little small houses where people open up their door and serve outside of them. And so my house in Germantown reminded me a lot of that. My idea was I was going to raise up the window that's on my porch. And I was going to serve people out of that. But after I got into finding out what was going to be required, it's just an equipment alone. I didn't have enough space allotted. So I had to move into what was then my then husband's man cave. And I opened the bakery out of there.
What was the first day selling your cupcakes like?
Yeah. I think we had like 6 cupcakes in my lineup. I got up at like 2:30 in the morning to sell them. To bake them because I believed that a bakery bakes fresh every single day. Again, I'm from the town that's known for eating. They say others may only eat to live, but in New Orleans, we live to eat. And so I came from a town that was known for pastry and fresh cakes and things like that. I would save my bus fare and walk home from school and buy donuts with my transfer money. And so I grew up with a very big sweet tooth, and there was really nothing in Nashville that was really satisfying that crave that I had.
Real quick, so Katrina get you here?
Actually, we came here a year before Katrina, so we chose Nashville as our home. A lot of people think we came here because of Katrina, because we showed up on the scene around Katrina, but I think it's because of the charm of my father. My father didn't meet a stranger. He had this really big, amazing smile that I have duplicated on my face. And he was meeting people in the streets, and they were coming and feeding him fried chicken because he was missing home. And so it was great that we were really close to Monell's, and they fed my family a lot. So my father and my stepmother and my sisters, one of my sisters and her babies came to live with us for a little while during their displacement from Katrina, and then went on to stay in Kansas City for a while before returning back home to New Orleans, where we lost our father tragically, unexpectedly, just 2 years ago in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. So back to selling cupcakes, the first day.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably a lot of anticipation. Like, is this the path for me?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
what was the moment you're like, all right, this was success. Okay, I'm going all in.
I knew it was going to be successful before the doors ever even opened. As I told you, I worked 2 years like it was a job every day before I ever even made anything. I was giving cupcakes away to my neighbors. It was my neighbors who were asking me for more. At the time when I was opening the Cupcake Collection, we had the Mad Platter and we had Monell's, and Germantown Cafe was just opening. Wow. That's all that was in Germantown. And so Mad Platter would call me down for Thursday morning meetups and bring this one little tiny cupcake lemon cupcake that I was doing. And the people were in love with them, and they would come down and they would buy whatever I had the hands to make. As real estate agents would come into our neighborhood where they'd tear down a warehouse and put up 15 houses in its place, I'd be standing inside of my lab doing research, which is my living room where there are 8-foot windows, looking outside to see as real estate agents would be coming by to show people those same condos or townhouses. I'm a super shy kid, but closed mouths don't get fed. And my friend Jose says it like this: they don't feed either. So I know that closed mouths don't get fed and they don't get fed either. So I better start opening up my mouth to say what it is that I need. So I'd walk outside to those real estate agents and say, hi, my name is Mignon Francois. I'm in my house just back here with the sign on it says bakery coming soon. I'm trying to practice on what it is that I'm doing. I don't know how to bake, not even out of a box. But my family says what I've been doing tastes really good. And my neighbors seem to like it a lot. I'm just wondering if, since you don't know me, if you would try it.
That give me chills.
And they would try it right on the street. And it would shock me because I'm from New Orleans. We don't eat from people we don't know. For all the reasons that you think. And so they would try them on the street and they would offer me money for everything I had left. And those people would knock back on my door and ask me, could they buy more? And as new people would come into our neighborhood, I would knock on their door and I'd welcome to the neighborhood, and I'd have 4 little cupcakes in a box that were shaped like bushes. And I wrote on the box, welcome to the hood. And they'd be scared to open up the door because they didn't know if I was going to trick them and say, now you owe me something. And I just really was trying to offer a piece of my joy that I had found. And they would be pleasantly surprised. And some of those people still are my customers today.
So how did you navigate from your house to retail?
Yeah. So the wonderful thing about this lovely little house that I have in Germantown, when we purchased it, was condemned. We moved into the house with 2 rooms and a half bathroom, which was no flooring on the floors. So they were plywood floors. There was no covering on the walls. They were plastered walls that we had sort of cleaned up. And our half bathroom was a toilet and a tub. I have 7 children now. At the time, I had 6. I saw your eyes wide. And so we needed an extra bathroom for all those people. And so our extra bathroom was a Home Depot orange bucket with a toilet seat lid that we had bought from the store in a room that had a door on it for privacy. When we got that house, my children did the hard work alongside of us to the labor-intensive job of cleaning it up and fixing it to what people walk in now and are served from right now today. The blessing is that we didn't know what we were getting. We didn't know that it was zoned commercial and residential. And so we took one door that led separately from the house into one room where the bakery is today and made that into the bakery. And then the rest of the house was serviced through a main door that also sits on the same porch. But when we got the house, we didn't know a bakery was going to be there. I didn't know how to bake even. But I practiced until I got it because I was tired of being sick and tired. And I was tired of seeing all the other people in the neighborhood have more than enough. There's these rap lyrics from arguably one of the greatest rap songs of all time, Jay-Z and Kanye. It's called Otis. It's called Otis because they sample Otis Redding. Mm-hmm. And there's a lyric that Kanye says, they didn't see me because I pulled up in my other Benz. Last week, I was in my other Benz. And my problem with the song was like, wait a minute, God, he has options and they're luxurious and I don't have anything. And as I watched the people around me come out of their luxurious homes and go back and forth and work and live there and walk to Monell's down the street in Eden, I didn't have electricity. I was hungry for normalcy and I was hungry for basic necessities and I was hungry for field trip money. I wanted my children to have what other children had. My daughter was graduating from high school that year. She had been the basketball manager. She could have gone anywhere on a track scholarship, anything she would have decided for her little heart to do. And I just wanted her to go to prom. I just wanted her to be able to go on a senior trip if they were having one. And so that's why I started the Cupcake Collection, to have field trip money. I didn't know that it was going to not only provide field trip money, but a living for not just me, but for other people that I would meet in the world. Not only me, but also to provide a scholarship in our name at Tennessee State University, where we help other students make ends meet. Because when I was graduating from college, I just needed books as a senior. It's all I need and I can graduate. I just got to get these books. And my father came through. My mother came through. I realized that everybody doesn't have a father and mother like I had. And so it exists to help other students make ends meet. We sat down and talked with the Women's Business Center a couple of years ago about buying meal plans for kids who might be hungry, because we learned about some children, some young women who were performing for the university, who were out there representing the university and didn't have meal plans. So some days they didn't eat. And this is happening while this all began for me in 2005 or 6, right in the midst of an economic downturn. I decided to open up a business known for failing, with no experience in the business, no knowledge of the business, losing everything I had with no credit, bad credit even, with my cards being repossessed and my home up for foreclosure sale the day that I opened up the business. So I knew I was going to lose that house in Germantown in December, and I opened the doors on November 9th, 2008.
Did you end up losing the house?
I didn't. I own that house now, and my children will be the recipients, or my children's children will be the recipients of it when I pass.
They're never going to sell that thing. How could they?
And what I struggled to pay $140,000 for in 2005. The exponential growth that we've experienced just from proximity.
Have you read the book E-Myth?
No, I have it in my list of.
Well, the story of E-Myth is a woman who makes cakes, mm-hmm. and she's making cakes, and someone's like, "Hey, you make great cakes. You should open up a bakery." Mm-hmm. And it's a whole story about scaling a business, mm-hmm. Going from the idea to, doing it with friends and then opening up a store. And I'm curious about this stage for you. Like, you're in your home, you're having family help, you're doing things, and you're getting busy. When was your first new hire?
I did it by myself for a little while. My first hire probably came about February or March of the following year, when my husband was in a coffee shop and met a woman there who was looking for extra work, and she came to work for me. And then there was a lady that came. She was a chef, and she was coming there all the time because she believed that the sign of a good bakery was their vanilla cake, and she fell in love with mine and started helping us. Some of the practices we still follow were things she implemented while she was there, because I had no idea what I was doing when I did it. But I think it goes down to the premise of do it messy. Just do it.
Yeah, just make a move. And I'm wondering, there's a moment in the book that's profound, and that is she hires the first hires, and she's navigating this new business, and she's finally like, all right, the bakery's doing great, doing okay. And she's like, she lets go, and then everything falls apart. Because she has no system, she has no processes. And so the story is really about how do we build the processes like a franchise would. And was there a moment in time where you started to let go of the business, and how did it do? Did it do well, or were you in the state where you were kind of the prisoner of the business?
Yeah, I think both. I think I had a little bit of both. There were times I let the reins go a little bit, and I had to come back and run and grab them. And I let a little bit go, and then I'd have to come back. There would be times when I could be gone for, a day, an afternoon, a couple of days. But now I don't even work at the bakery anymore. I haven't had to report there in over a year. I think in the last year, I've reported maybe a little bit more than last year. I've reported there twice. And I had to work in those situations. And if we had been just a little bit tighter, I wouldn't have had to.
What's the state of the business today?
So we have 4 locations in Nashville. We just opened a store. Well, let me just start by saying we just closed a store in New Orleans, where I'm from. It was a passion project of mine to go home to New Orleans. I believed it was like being on Broadway in New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, And so we closed that store on January 31st, 2024.
That was hard.
It was very hard. It was like pulling teeth.
Your teeth or?
My teeth.
Yeah. What was the catalyst that helped you make the decision? Because didn't happen.
I'm no longer running the business anymore. My children are.
Ah.
And so it was them. I emptied out a bank account trying to keep it open.
Yeah.
And the day that my mother, who's the administrator, comes to me and says, all right, I'm about to pay their payroll and I have rent. What do you want me to do? And I was just like, pay it. And she said, with what? And I was just like, man, it sucks so bad, because it was like, we have such a great product in Nashville, they can't get enough of it. In New Orleans, I just couldn't make it jump off. And so my son made the decision that we would carry. We had been carrying the store for 7 years. It had not been profitable. But it had been popular. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so we made the decision to close the store on January 31st. And within days, we opened up our store in Hendersonville. And I think it's a testament to when one door closes, another door opens. And while we had been stuck in construction for months in Hendersonville, I had to get a lesson. Something had to happen to me to understand that I'm not in control here. You don't make the decisions around here. God makes the decisions. And so no matter how hard I tried to make it work, I got to leave New Orleans on my terms. So I left a successful business, essentially. I closed it when it made sense for me. And it was hard to say goodbye to that team. One of the most amazing teams. We had just formulated this team in the last probably 6 months. And, it's like, where were these people 2 years ago? And the moment we closed it, Hendersonville came out of the limbo of construction. And about a month later, as we were moving, not even a full month later, 3 weeks later, when we went down to New Orleans to get all the equipment to empty the store, the day that we moved the equipment out of New Orleans, we moved it into Lenox Village, which is our next location that's opening. So while I was holding so tightly onto one thing, something else was saying, what about me?
Yeah.
So it was hard to leave it because I just felt like a failure. But I learned that what's failure in one season is favor in another season. And so what looked like failure to me was what looked like failure to me in New Orleans was favor in Nashville. So I closed that one on January 31st. I opened a new one in Hendersonville on February the 24th, I believe. And then a new one's opening on Sunday in Lenox Village.
Wow.
So we're four locations in one city right now.
Yeah.
And then we ship nationwide.
Wow. And this is something that we often find. We're like, oh, I'm doing really good over here. I'm going to open this other location. And then Humble Pie comes around the corner like, surprise. Yeah. And you put so much effort to keep it going, so much mental bandwidth to try to keep something that's just not going to work. And then it doesn't. But that's beautiful. You got another one open and how was the new store in Hendersonville?
Oh, man, we are so blessed to have it. Hendersonville opened their arms to us and said, what took you so long to get here?
Hendersonville.
Yeah. And so Hendersonville has just been so supportive of the store. They come like they're buying out the product every single day. I've got a team there that is they're mixed with a veteran team and a very new squad. So some of my girls that have been with me for a very long time are running the Hendersonville store. So I'm really not worried about Hendersonville at all.
So where were you in your business when you ran in and heard of EO?
Oh, I was probably just finding success. And I say that very loosely because my store opened into the black. Like it was always successful from day one. I learned how to live underneath my means and I paid cash for everything. So I did not have copious amounts of debt. And every day at the end of the day, I settled with the IRS in my head and in an envelope on the side. And that was the only debt I had. So when I discovered Catalyst, I had gotten a new neighbor across the street, and my old neighbor who sort of propelled me into business walked me over to her and said, you're going to love your new neighbor. And it was a woman by the name of Julie May.
Wow.
And Julie May would always let me come over there and sit at her house and ask her business questions. And sometimes I would go up into the bowling alley inside of her building. Call it a bowling alley because the conference room table is made out of bowling alley lanes. And I would just sit and look at my building from her window. And I just would try to ponder the answers to questions over there. One day, Julie May said, there's this program that I feel like you would really benefit from. It's down the Entrepreneur Center. Have you ever heard of it? I was like, no, never heard of the Entrepreneur Center. And so she gave me the flyer because she said to do it. I did it. I paid the fee to get in, and I qualified. I didn't even know I was making that kind of money by then. I think you have to make $250,000 a year to get in. I wasn't even aware we were making that kind of money. And I got into the program, and I became a spokesperson for the program and a poster child for the program, and just started being a mouthpiece for the Entrepreneur Center. I joined the board at the Entrepreneur Center because I wanted other people like me to know what was available to them and what could happen if only they believed.
I just sit here thinking about looking out her window, seeing your business from a perspective of you're seeing and hearing what's possible with Julie, like in inserting these little nuggets about the value of Catalyst could be and what, because she's grown a very successful business and what a great thing for a neighbor to do for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. She told me the last time I saw her, she said, and now the teacher has become the student.
Wow.
And so I've been able to share some of my wisdom with her after all these years. I think that's pretty funny how life works.
You are the absolute definition of entrepreneur. Taking nothing and turning it into something.
Yeah. And believing in it, no matter what people say. My neighbors behind me after the tornado, because, you know, our neighborhood was decimated by that tornado. Their house was in my backyard, and the Cupcake Collection was one of the only buildings, my house and the one across the field from me were one of the only things not just totally destroyed. And my neighbor said to me once her house finished being built back up, and I went and knocked on her door, and she just started laughing when she opened the door. She said, every time I see you, I remember that we didn't believe in what you had going on, and that the whole neighborhood said, poor girl, she doesn't even know that she's already defeated before she even gets started. And I'm the one that's laughing.
You never doubted, though.
I never doubted that it was going to be, because I know what I was making. I love sugar. I say that cake is my love language. So I knew that I wasn't getting what I was making in the house in Nashville. So I knew that I had something special, and I was willing to make it as I go. And that's what I did. I started with only 6 flavors, and one of those 6 was a combination. 2 of those 6 was a combination of 2 of those flavors. So I didn't have a lot when I opened. And now we have so many flavors that we have to rotate them by season. And I create all of them because I believe that every stupid thing that you've ever had to do is taking you from where you are to where it is that you want to be. And I studied science in college. I had planned to be a surgeon, and I couldn't apply the science to the human body. And so I was flunking out of my science classes, and I was in danger of losing my scholarship. I went to college on a full ride. Between Xavier University at New Orleans giving me scholarships and the UNCF scholarship that I had and other little grants and things like that, I went to college with essentially no debt. But nobody told me that you weren't supposed to take the credit cards and you weren't supposed to, buy Burger King on debt that you're going to pay in 30 years from now. But I just was studying to be a surgeon, and that's what I wanted to do. And I had to change up my plan when I wasn't prepared for the party on the college campus. And I was bringing home a baby bumblebee second semester, freshman year. And I was only 17. I started college at 16. So I was already a smart cookie, but I just didn't know what the world really was. And so fast forward 17 years, I'm in my kitchen in Germantown, and Dave Ramsey is telling people they could get out of debt by having a bake sale, and I'm going to figure out how to make cake. So I call my grandma on the phone who doesn't have recipes. And something special about my grandmother is that she was a household manager also, but that was her living as a domestic woman. And so she had to leave her family at home while she went and took care of this family over here. So she took care, she ran her household from outside of it. So those are skills that she taught us. And when I needed to make my first successful cake recipe, we went back to what we had done when I was 17. Well, as a 17-year-old pregnant girl who was hungry, whose mother hated to cook, I called my grandmother and said, Grandma, I'm hungry. And because I had spent a lot of time with her, I knew her instruction and I knew how to make what she was saying. So me and my mother made a deal. You wash the dishes from now on. I will be handling the dinner. And my mother happily obliged. And we switched roles. And I began to feed our family. My mother would give me the money. I would go to the grocery store. I would buy the things, or she would bring the stuff home. And I made whatever my grandmother told me to over the phone, long distance. Here's the catch. Long distance wasn't unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 5 minutes to talk to my grandmother so I could get this down. She'd be like, hurry up, child, hang up, call me back if you need to. And I would hang up and I'd go to the pan and I'd do the things I saw her do. So now 17 years later in Nashville, in my own kitchen, I picked up the phone. I called my grandmother. I said, Grandma, the man on the radio says you could get out of debt by having a bake sale. So what are we going to do? And she said, well, open up your hand. And that has been some of my greatest advice, to open up your hand. When you keep your hand open like this, yes, things fall out of your hand, but it leaves room for other things to fall in, for people to put things in it. Because when you keep your hand like this, you can't give anything, but you can't also receive. And so that's how I got my first successful recipe. I did a horrible job at what my grandmother said, but the science came back to serve me, because every stupid thing you've ever had to do is taking you from where you are to where you want to be. I took the science, the lab, the things that I was learning about scientific reactions, and I realized, wait a minute, these ingredients are ingredients on the scientific table, the periodic table. If I put another thing from the periodic table in this bowl, it's going to make a new thing. And all I have to do is manipulate the new thing to be what I want it to be. And I took another look at what my grandmother had taught me. I found everything wrong with it. I fixed it and made my first successful cake. I've been making cake like that ever since. To the tune of being voted as the best cake in Tennessee. We were voted as the best cake in Louisiana. And we rank in the top 10 in the nation as one of the best bakeries to eat cupcakes in this country. All from a girl who didn't know how to bake, not even out of a box.
And all because you faced massive adversity. Mm-hmm. And it forced you to make a decision that you needed to change.
Yeah. Yeah, tired of being sick and tired. It's like, it's nobody's job to get me out of this. It's nobody's job to work me out of this. No, it's nobody's job to give me anything. Listen, I've been on welfare and I didn't want to be. It came down to a decision of, I remember my husband telling me I need to go down to the welfare office and apply for food stamps. And for me, it was like taking my clothes off for people and turning around in circles and asking if they liked what they saw. For them to only tell me they didn't like what they saw and that I should go back home and figure out with my able-bodied self how to do what I needed to do.
I remember Dave Ramsey telling people to do a bake sale. Does Dave Ramsey know that you actually did?
Yeah. Actually, I consider Dave one of, a friend, and I've even had the opportunity to go to Ramsey Solutions and speak to all of Ramsey as they kicked off their campaign for being, what was it? They wanted to be fans of their fans. And so I got to be their first speaker of the year. Or they ordered cupcakes for the entire company.
Oh, wow.
And that place smelled like the Cupcake Collection. And so, yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful story.
We get to get invited back with our food truck and things like that. And he even he saw me on the cover of the Tennessee in the business section. There was a story they were running where there's a big, gigantic picture of me and one of my kids in the background making cupcakes, and a little picture of a senator on the front page who was running. It was not very well known, from Chicago.
I think we know who that is.
Yeah, who ends up becoming the president of our United States of America. Yeah.
Last and final question for a new EO member. and all your experience with working with EO all these years, what would be some words of wisdom to help them navigate the journey of EO?
What story do you want to tell when it's just a story to tell? We're all in charge of whatever story that we're putting out into the world. What do you want them to say about you in the end? For me, it was I wanted to be a lighthouse in the community. I wanted to bring joy to the people who experienced Mignon Francois. I wanted people to know that I could heal and help them, not from a surgery table with a scalpel and nurses by my side, but I could heal them by bringing them back to a time and place where somebody saw them and gave them something that was made with love, with ingredients that they knew how to pronounce, with people in the building who knew their name and all of the things that they had that they were trying to celebrate, with an emphasis on celebration, letting little kids during the pandemic know that the celebration was still on. Even though everything else was closed down, it's still your birthday and that matters. And we began to ship celebrations all over the country with Zoom. Allowing people to come back and experience community. So those are two big pillars of the Cupcake Collection, celebration and community. And so when the story is told about who Mignon Francois was, I wanted to be that she came into this little North Nashville area, bought a little rundown house, and nobody said anything was ever going to come out of, especially not gourmet. And she changed the narrative and shined a light on this part of Nashville, and Nashville will never be the same because of it. So my question for them is, what story do you want to tell?
Wow.
When it's just a story that's
that is good.
You have told an amazing story today.
Yes.
My gosh. I thought I knew a lot about you, but you blew my mind. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. That was wonderful. That's what we get to do here. Nashville, eonashville.com. If you are an entrepreneur here in Nashville and you are molding your story, what would it be like to be with other people molding their stories too? To be in a community, because it can be awfully alone to be in this entrepreneurial journey, and we don't have to be alone. We can be together. We can learn together. If you are interested in learning more about how we navigate that for you, please visit eonashville.com. And thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.